Okay, tonight, thank you guys for joining us on a Sunday night. I know it's getting nice outside, and I figure attendance will drop off a little bit. Tonight, my goal was to bring George Demetriou in and see if we could start focusing on getting better at the playoff test. And I don't know that tonight we're gonna accomplish actually a result that is a better playoff test result, but I wanted to show some penalty enforcement issues. Some of you may be very good at the rule book and penalty enforcement. We all have got to get better, and that includes me. And so I've asked George if he could come up with some clips, and he's got some that he's going to run through here in a second. But I wanted to start off with, since we're talking about fouls and penalty administration, the whole thing starts with us throwing a flag. And so on the screen, you'll see. Let me stop it for a second. So we're gonna take a look at the umpire here. And I think how we throw the flag is important. It tells the fans and the coaches maybe what's in us, and we need to try to neutralize that. And so I grabbed this one. This happens to be an umpire that slams the flag down, and there's no reason for that to ever be the case. We should never aggressively slam the flag down. I'll let it go one more time and then move to the next one. It isn't quite as bad. We'll see him throw it down. Next play is, I just really want you to watch and see what this looks like when we throw a flag like this. So I'll get it. We're looking at the umpire. I don't know what he's calling, but you'll see him reach up, and there's a lot of drama in the way he throws the flag, and that is, we don't need to do that. If we want to get our flag up in the air, that's great, but let's try to avoid the drama around the flag. I think I got one more here. Let's see if this one's worth us paying attention to. I believe this is going to come out of, oops, sorry. This comes out of the White Hat's pocket. Again, it's a slam dunk type flag. We talk about getting that flag into a quiet space. So get it off to the side. There's no reason that has to be slammed right to the spot of the foul. We do want a spot foul flag to go where the flag should go, but there's no reason to slam that down. If you guys have your camera on, do me a favor and turn the cameras off. Okay, George, what else you want to talk about throwing the flag, and then we'll jump into your clips.
Well, like I said before, it depends. The flag throwing technique depends on whether you need to get the flag to the spot or not. Soft toss to the spot is probably the most desired technique there. Other than that, the flag should be nonchalantly thrown into the air so it can be seen. Other than that, I think you covered the most important point, which is the worst thing you can do is slam the flag and look like you're angry.
We talked about it one time about never relocate a flag with your foot. I was hoping I could find the clip of what I saw was a kick. Never use the foot wedge to relocate a flag. All right, with that, let's George, you ready to jump into some plays here?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about penalty enforcement, and I only want to make 2 points before we start the video. Probably the most important thing by default on penalty enforcement is understanding the rules. So that's the underlying foundation. If we assume that everybody on the crew knows the rules, and so very often we always pin penalty enforcement on the referee, and he is ultimately responsible. But the most blessed crew is one that has 5 guys that know the rules equally as well. So if we can just set that aside, the number one problem with penalty enforcement is communication. When I think back to all the times where I've botched it, it's because I didn't communicate properly with the official that had the flag. And we're going to see some examples of those possibilities when we go through the clips. So with that, Kirk, we can start with number 10, which is a roughing the passer penalty.
George, I don't have 10 for whatever reason. I don't have 10.
That's the first one I sent you.
Yeah, I must have screwed up and not put that one in. Let me do the first one. I've got 1:15:18, and one is that that Seahawks play. Let me run that one first, and then we'll go into 15. Sorry about that. Okay, so let me describe this one then. We've got a snap from the 11, 3rd and 1. Pass completed to the running back. Fumbled at the 1. So you just have to accept the fact that it's short of the goal line. We'll play it again. Pass is caught. Fumbled at the 1. Tapped out of the end zone by the defense. So the defensive player illegally bats the ball, or I shouldn't say illegally, bats the ball out of the end zone. So George, I have a poll for this one. Let me put the poll up, and we'll talk through the play again. All right, so you should see on your screen the play. So it's 3rd and 1 from the B11. So A's going in to score from the 11-yard line. Score's tied up with 2 seconds left in the 4th quarter. A1 advances that forward pass.
It should tell you you're on it. I had to reload it once, and so
I need everybody to mute their mic. All right, so A1 advances the forward pass to the B1, fumbles into the end zone where B1 bats the ball out of the back of the end zone. Clock reads zeros at the end of the play. So the options here are illegal bat, administered from the end zone. It's a safety, so A wins by 2. Letter B is illegal bat is ignored since it was a fumble into the end zone. It was the force of the fumble forced the ball into the end zone. So it's the end of regulation. We go into overtime. Option C is touchback. If Team A accepts the foul, B snaps the ball from the B10 after the foul is administered from the 20, and they would have an untimed down if A accepted that foul. Then the last choice is D, A's ball, 1st and goal from the A. That should say B half-yard line. My apologies. That should be B half-yard line. So 1/2 yard from the goal and an untimed down. So it looks like we've got some guys jumping in, answering the poll. Let's see how many we got. 34 on the line, George. You were asking earlier how many were joining us. All right, I'm going to close this down in 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right, I'm going to end the poll. Looks like we're all over the board. I know that there's a lot of pressure associated with that. George, can you see the results?
I can. And roughly, it looks like 25. It's a 4-way split. We had a substantial number pick every choice, and I was going to say that you had good alternatives there with plausible explanations. So the correct answer is D. The foul was in the end zone, and usually when you have a foul in the end zone, you're going to end up with a safety. But in this case, the foul in the end zone was by the team that was not in possession. B never had possession of the ball. So the basic spot for fouls by B on a running play is the end of the run. The pass was caught, and the receiver started to run, and he fumbled at the B1. So the end of his run is the B1 yard line, and then the defense fouled. So the result of the play is a touchback. That is the result of the play, but they will take the penalty, and the penalty is enforced half the distance from the basic spot, which is the end of the run, So they end up with first and goal. It won't be first and goal.
Oh.
It was 3rd and 1. Oh, no, it was from the B11. So they do end up making a first down. So you're good there. So D is the answer. It's half the distance from the end of the run, which is the spot of the fumble.
The B half-yard line. All right. We're going to jump to the next one. If I can click all the buttons accurately here. Okay, let me stop sharing those results. Let's see if this will work. All right, next play. George, we're going to go to play 15. This is an illegal participation play. And we have on this one.
Yeah, it's on the defense. The defense has 12 out there.
All right, you should see. It's a little blurry, I know, on your end all. So we're snapping it from the 39. We got a player that's entering, and he is the 12th player, correct, George?
Correct.
All right, we're going to watch how these guys communicate here. I think the first thing I saw, that white hat wants to go fetch the ball. We don't want to waste our time fetching that football as a white hat. All right, so, George, this is where the poll is going to start defining itself. So we've got illegal participation, and so the question is going to be, are we going to administer this from the B45, which is the end of the run, or I'll play it out here.
No, the end of the run is the A40.
I'm sorry, A40. Yeah, sorry about that. Let me go back up in case I confused everybody by my statement here. All right, we're going to see the end of the run is the 40-yard line. And so if you administer a 15-yard penalty, it would put you to the B45. Or they snapped it from the A44, and if you went 15 from there, it'd be on the B46. I know it's just a 1 yard difference, but that's
they snapped it from the A39.
I'm sorry. Thank you. A39. I should let you talk. I should be quiet. All right, so there's a discussion. Umpire marks it off. I'll speed him up here a little bit. Looks like they're snapping it, George, from the 45. Okay, so let's just real quick let it run through one more time. So we're snapping it from the 39, as I was corrected. B12 enters and participates. George, there's no doubt here that this is illegal participation, right? We don't need anybody questioning whether they all 12 participated. They were all involved in the play. All right, so I'm going to throw the poll back up here again. So should we snap that from the 45 or the 46 next snap? So I think this comes down, George, to do we go to the previous spot or the end of the run with 15-yard penalty? All right, I'm going to shut it down in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Looks like we've got a tie ball game. So it looks like we got our work cut out for us, George. So 50-50 split on the location of this next snap.
Okay, so the correct answer here is the one that won the election by 6 percentage points. Illegal participation by the defense, 12 on the field, is a foul simultaneous with the snap. So the enforcement spot for that is the previous spot. So it only made a 1 yard difference here, but there could be situations where there is a bigger difference. So I think that's all we can say about that.
Okay, we good to move on to 18?
Yes.
And I do not have a poll for this one. We'll let it play out here. So we got a punt play. I stopped it here, George, and said the end of the kick is at the 16-yard line. We got a block in the back on the receiving team where the arrow's pointing. I'm pointing to the flag if it's not on your screen. Looks like it's about the R32. Block in the back signal. So it looks like he picks up that ball at the 25-yard line. So that's it down on maybe the 12?
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
We'll watch it real quick.
Can I take it from here?
Yeah, I'll let it run from here. It just keeps circulating from here.
Okay, so this one is one that where communication is very important, and from the video, we know where the block in the back allegedly occurred. We can't see the foul on the video, but the most important thing here, if we could find one thing, is to communicate to the referee when that foul occurred. Did it occur during the run back, or did it occur while the kick was in the air? If the foul occurred while the kick was in the air, then the foul has post-scrimmage kick enforcement, and the penalty would be enforced from the end of the kick, because the end of the kick is behind the spot of the foul. Apparently, that was not the case. So the foul occurred during the run back. So again, we have a comparison to make under the all but one principle, and we have to compare the spot of the foul to the basic spot for the run, which is the end of the run. And the end of the run is behind the spot of the foul. So, and that's where the umpire started from. He started from the end of the run. So it appears that he had the correct starting point, but he only walked off 13 yards. Well, not only, I shouldn't say only 13 yards. It's a 10-yard penalty. So why he walked off 13 yards, we have no clue how he did that. Okay. Now, it could also be lack of knowledge of the way things appear. Sometimes umpires will stand at a spot, and it won't be the spot that they're enforcing the penalty from. They'll recognize that they're standing on the wrong spot, and instead of getting to the correct spot and walking off the exact distance, they'll make a mental correction and they'll put the ball where it should be if they had started from the right spot. And then when you do something like that, you're just asking for trouble, because you may be exactly right by rule, but it'll look to everybody that it was done incorrectly. So those are all the possibilities that I see on this video.
So, George, if that foul was, in fact, by R, while the kick was in the air, we would go half the distance from this line, correct?
Correct.
So, as officials, when we're bringing information into you as a white hat, and I know that this is probably way too generic, there's a lot of differences of opinion, but you've been doing this for years. Can you help us maybe talk through what you tell your crew to bring to you information? What all information are you looking for, and at what component first? what helps you?
Well, the thing I like to hear first is what the foul is. So I would expect the covering official here to say, I had a block in the back. And then he can tell me by which team and the number of the player. And then was the ball live or dead when that occurred. And I think if we can get that information, we can process it correctly.
But I think in this case, you need whether it was after the return.
Right, you're right.
Okay.
On this kick play, we also need to hear whether it was during the kick or during the run back.
Okay.
And this is something that I strongly recommend to everybody is they should learn to referee a game. I know some guys don't want to mess with the headache, but we have plenty of sub-varsity games, and if you really want to improve your officiating, you should referee more than just a few sub-varsity games, because then when you try to enforce penalties and you don't get the explanation that you need, you get a better understanding of how you should explain what happened to the referee in the varsity game.
I see some comments here. I think maybe it certainly was before the mechanics manual, but I think it has helped us significantly to have the line judge at the spot of enforcement and the head linesman to walk with the umpire, and it allows just one more layer of checks and balances for our administering that foul. You have anything else on that, George, that has?
No. Can you see if there's any questions?
I don't see any questions. Just a lot of comments along that same context. I don't see any questions. So I'm ready to go to the next if you are.
Okay, what's next?
I've got play 21, grounding in end zone, if that's the correct title.
Okay.
You can see the quarterback flushed out to the right. It's hard to see, but he gets tackled, and I think right before he gets tackled, he either does an underhand toss about the direction of the pylon. Let's watch the play again before we advance to the next step in this play. So snapping it from about the 3, flushed out to the left, throws the ball away. What's interesting here is the head linesman, I believe, throws a flag for the grounding, which we wouldn't want done in our mechanics manual now. Then you see him signal safety. So you see the wing signaling safety. All right, now I'm going to let it play out here. Let me try to speed it up a little bit. So I think we have the gist of the play. The white hat's communicating. Looks like he's going to announce to the press box. Those knickers are slimming. Make you tall, too.
Okay, and the succeeding kickoff is from the 15.
Let me stop this here. I've got us. Let me see if there we go. Curious enough, the tee is on the 15-yard line here. I can't say I've ever seen that happen.
Either have I. Okay, so a couple of points here. First, we have, I wouldn't say unusual, but let's say an uncommon occurrence where both the result of the play and the penalty are a safety. it's the result of the play is a safety because an illegal forward pass under high school rules is a running play, and the run ended where he threw the ball forward. So the run ended in the end zone. It's just like the quarterback got sacked in the end zone. The run ended in the end zone. So the result of the play is a safety. The penalty is also a safety because the penalty is 5 yards from the spot of the foul, and the spot of the foul was in the end zone. So enforcement of the penalty would leave the ball in the end zone. So reading between the lines here, what I think happened is we see that the referee did not signal the safety as the result of the play. He just signaled the penalty. So he decided to enforce the penalty on the kickoff. And we know that we can carry over penalties for fouls during a try, for fouls during a touchdown, and for fouls during a field goal. They can all be carried over to the succeeding spot. But there is no rule that permits a foul to be carried over from a safety. The penalty for a safety is a safety. I mean, that sounds awkward, but that's reality. So the penalty is a safety, and the only way, so apparently what he did is he went to the 20, and then they walked off 5 yards for intentional grounding from the 20, which of course is totally incorrect. So after a safety, the only way that you get a kickoff from other than the 20-yard line is if there is a dead ball foul after the play ends. So that's what we have on play 21.
George, I would probably add here that it is possible for the White Hats that are listening to this, you're back there 60 yards away. There's a chance you don't know that this tee is set up on the 15. And it just seems like we get thinner and thinner with our ranks, and a lot of times we've got back judges that maybe are inexperienced. I think this is something that could get missed, and the White Hat doesn't even know where we're snapping the ball. Now, there's 3 other officials on that crew that should be aware that this doesn't look right, but it could have just been a rookie back judge too, setting this up incorrectly.
Yeah, so you just fell into part of my introduction that penalty enforcement is a joint crew responsibility, and although the referee is ultimately responsible, you're absolutely right. He may not know. He's probably back at the other 20 or 15-yard line. He may not know where it's being kicked off from, but there should be somebody else on the crew that knows the rules as well as the referee, if not better.
All right, we're going to go to play 32. This is the one that had the audio that I couldn't get played through here. So the description here on the screen, I think you guys should be able to see this. The quarterback is going to fumble the ball. And you can see the arrow over here. We've got a defensive holding called. Picked up by Big 77 and advanced beyond the line to gain. Correct me if I'm wrong, George. This is where there's a lot of audio that comes through here that you're going to have to.
Yeah, I can explain it. It's okay.
Okay.
I won't be as eloquent as the audio, but I'll explain it.
I think he had a Southern accent. If you could throw in the Southern accent, it sounds good.
That was a Texas accent.
Texas. We need Rusty. He was on the other night. There's the hold. I didn't get to that spot. Fumble, scoop. All right, you're on, George.
Okay, so the foul here is by the defense, and it is a hold. So it's a 10-yard penalty, and remember that all fouls by the team not in possession are enforced from the basic spot. So the first thing we have to do is figure out where the basic spot is, but we have two plays here. We have the play that led up to the fumble, and that actually is a loose ball play because he fumbled it behind the line of scrimmage. So the basic spot for a loose ball play is the previous spot. It was followed by the run by the lineman. When the run by the lineman started, the foul had already occurred. So unless we're applying a rule that has a special enforcement where it says to enforce from the end of the last run, that lineman's run is irrelevant. And the only rule that has a penalty enforcement that's from the end of the last run is roughing the passer. And we don't have roughing the passer here. So the penalty for the hold has to be enforced from the basic spot related to the play that it occurred during. And that was the run fumble behind the line, which is the previous spot. So the correct enforcement for this play is from the previous spot. And what they did was tack it on to the end of the play, which is incorrect.
So George, we talk routinely about that technically we don't beanbag fumbles behind the line of scrimmage, technically. A lot of guys, I think, are in the habit of throwing a beanbag when they see a fumble, and therefore it's just ignored when it's behind the line of scrimmage. But this would be the justification for that being technically unnecessary to throw the beanbag. Am I accurate there?
Yeah, you don't need the beanbag because you're not going to enforce anything from the fumble because the fumble's behind the line. The enforcement spot is the previous spot. Now, some guys will say that their line counts that the crew has recognized that it's a fumble, and I'm not a fan of that. But again, if you beanbag a fumble behind the line, I can think of 5,000 things that are more egregious errors than beanbagging a fumble behind the line. But your basic point is correct. It is unnecessary to beanbag a fumble behind the line.
So it'd be 2 strikes against you if you slam your beanbag down, right?
Right.
Okay, good. All right, let's see if I got any. Let me see if I got any questions on the wire here. Yeah, in this case, George, the run was, I think, about a 14-yard gain. Therefore, it would be irrelevant the spot of the enforcement in this case. They would decline it and take the result.
Well, it was more than, it was more than 10 yards.
Yeah. Because
the audio did say that it was the best choice here, the best correct choice, is to decline the penalty and take the result of the play. Because if the penalty is correctly enforced, you're not going to get as many yards as you would from the result of the play. And the referee needs to recognize all that as he's getting the explanation and go ahead and do. This is one you can do without talking to the coach.
So I usually don't like to compound questions on these, but this is a great play. So let's say, well, no, I'm not even going to go there. No, I'm not going to go there. Let's go to the next play. I think we'd end up down a rabbit hole there. I want to stay true to our clock. All right, so I think the next one's 26. I haven't spent much time on 26 at all. That looks like a legal hurdle by our wing official over the sideline fence. So George, do they?
Actually, can you do an ad hoc poll on this?
I sure can.
Okay. Is there a foul on that play?
Hold on.
You can do yes, there was a foul, no, there wasn't a foul. I'm curious to see what we're going to get back on that.
Now you're challenging me here. Let's see if I can get it here.
Obviously, they called a foul. So I'd like to see how many agree that that is a foul.
And so we're talking about the foul at the sideline?
Yes.
All right, I'm almost ready. Let's see where it went. All right, we're ready. Foul or no foul on the, is that the quarterback running up the sideline there? All right, I'll turn it off in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Looks like 4-1.
Yeah. So that's a pretty good result there, and the supervisor on the audio agrees with the results of the poll, as do I. If we look at it again, the contact starts while the runner is inbounds, and it's all one motion. He lets him go after he swings him around to get him out of bounds. There is no renewed effort. There's no second act. There is no foul there.
So let's talk through some mechanics on this, George. So the quarterback is the referee's responsibility all the way into that bench?
Yes.
I suppose he could have some help from the wing in our case.
The hurdling side judge did an outstanding job getting in there.
Yeah, he's lucky he didn't catch that cleat on the top of that and make a fool out of himself.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, the purpose of this video is the penalty enforcement. And they not only called a foul that didn't exist here, but then they enforced it incorrectly. This is a 4th down play. So that play ended short of the line to gain. So when that play ended, that was B's ball. So the correct enforcement, if you're going to call the foul, is to back up B 15 yards and give him a 1st down. And what they did was treat it like a live ball foul, and they added 15 yards to the dead ball spot and gave a 1st down. So this was a while ago. I don't know if the crew got suspended for this, but this is an egregious enforcement error because the wrong team ended up with the ball. And suspension would have been justified. Now, I got to believe that these NCAA officials know the rule that I just cited. So what I think happened here is a communication problem. The referee never got firm in his mind that it was a dead ball foul and not a live ball foul.
I would imagine something that would help in this case is for the referee to go to Team A's head coach and describe this, regardless of the assumption that the coach has been around the game long enough. I think this still requires some attention because he's going to be upset. He's not going to understand that he doesn't have a 1st down after getting a 15-yard penalty, whether he agreed with the foul or not. But I think the white hat needs to go with the wing and talk to a head coach in this case.
I don't know that that would do any good. I don't think we can expect a high school coach to understand that this was a penalty enforcement mistake. The coaches know the rules that they need to teach their players, such as don't blindside block them, don't hold them, et cetera, et cetera. But coaches do not understand penalty enforcement.
No, but if we go over and talk to them, one, I think it shows that our confidence in what we just ruled, because the coach right there can't understand. It makes no sense to him why he wouldn't have a first down after his quarterback just got yanked, and he firmly believes he was fouled. I still think it says to the crowd, it says to the players, and then now to the coach that we're confident in our ruling, so therefore stay off our back. We didn't screw this up. I think it sets the tone for the next snap, would be my opinion. Good. Anything else? I don't see anything that jumps out at me on the line. I probably should have had somebody monitor some chat, but I think we're good to go. All right, the next one, George, I think this one was mine. No, this is yours. This one doesn't really fit the program this evening, but as I was looking through some plays communicated during the course of this season, I thought this one was an interesting play. So what you're going to see is a shotgun snap to the quarterback. He's going to throw a pass that gets deflected back in his face by a defensive lineman, and he either catches it and throws it out the back of the end zone, or he muffs it out of the back of the end zone.
Well, the third possibility is we could term what he does a bat.
Oh, he bats it.
The three physical possibilities here are muff, bat, or pass.
And I'll be honest, I don't remember all of the details that you shared with me when this originally came through. So I will look forward to hearing about it again.
Okay, so what I just said is the key point. Was that a muff, a bat, or a pass? It's not a great video. We don't have a good look at it, but it looks like he throws that ball over the end line. Whether he actually caught it and had a foot down and threw it is debatable. But if he threw it out, it's a safety. If he just batted it or muffed it out, I don't think it's a muff. It's either a bat. You either have to call that a bat or a pass. And if it's a bat, it's just an incomplete pass, because any eligible receiver can bat a forward pass in any direction. So there is no foul if he batted it. But if he caught it and threw it, then that's a backward pass over the end line, and that would be a safety.
Those are two significantly different outcomes, aren't they?
Yes, and when in doubt, I wouldn't call the safety here. And looking at it, it's really hard to say whether it looks like he may have got a foot down before he threw it. But if he were a receiver and he had the ball that long before he lost it, would you call it a catch? I think not. So the preferred ruling here, I would say, is an incomplete pass. By rule, you could justify a safety.
Well, it sure looks on my clearer screen. It looks like he grabbed that and threw it out the back of the end zone. I have a hard time imagining that's an incomplete pass. But like you say, is there a timing element to the catch? I think his actions are pretty clear when I look at it. It seems like he's tossing that out the back of the end zone, and that there was the intent there. It would be one thing if he swatted it to the ground, like you see a lot of quarterbacks do.
Yeah, that's what he should have done.
Okay, let's see. I think Oh, this, I got one more. Looks like we're about to where we want to be on the clock. So I had harvested this. I don't think, George, you've seen this one. And so what we're looking at is a punt play from the 10 or 9-yard line. We got player number 12 for the receiving team. Should be R12 is running off the field here. Definitely did not get off the field in time. Then we're going to have a personal foul on the kicking team called. Looks like the end of the kick is the B49. And so the message here is this is the end of the quarter. And fouls at the end of the quarter, the mechanics manual, actually, regardless of a foul or not, we say we want to set the chains before the quarter is changed over. And the message here is if we would have administered this foul as if the quarter hadn't changed, set the chains, we may not have run into the error that we ended up with. And so the crew will end up administering this. And I think that the difference is that it turned out to be a 17-yard penalty administered against the kicking team instead of setting the chains with the foul, with the 15-yard penalty at the end of the quarter and then swapping them. And so I think there's just the general message is, especially in a change of possession at the end of the quarter, and if you introduce a foul, it just compounds the potential for an error.
Well, let's leave the quarter extension out of it for a minute. So what did they end up doing regarding the penalties?
I believe they just administered the foul on K, 15 yards from, actually they went 15 yards from there, the 49, instead of the other 49 on the other side of the 50. That's I believe what they did. It was called out here.
Okay, so if we're doing this correctly, we have a foul on each team, correct?
Right. If they threw the flag on B12, which they should have. But that was not part of this sequence as it was presented here.
Okay, so if let's see, who ended up, B ended up with the ball. So their foul is an illegal substitution, which is previous spot enforcement. So there is no option here. Let's see here. And I guess there's no PSK enforcement, but they could still have their foul declined and have they could decline the personal. Well, wait. If they decline the personal foul, then their foul would be enforced from the previous spot. So it doesn't make sense for them to decline the personal foul. You just have a simple case of offsetting fouls, and the down should be replayed with an untimed down. That is the correct answer here. Now, this is a very unusual situation. If I had this on the field, you can see how long it took me to come up with the correct explanation. So in the heat of battle, this would have taken much longer to sort out on the field. And the important thing is you want to do it right and do it quick, but doing it right is much more important.
And I wasn't even getting into the accuracy of the foul now that I look through there. The message was, make sure you get on the proper side of the 50-yard line after the foul is administered. Slow down at the quarter. But, yeah, you're right. I think they got it had the foul been called on B12. That's all I've got, and we're right at our limit here. And George, thank you for jumping on this short notice over the weekend and providing us this. I think we could do this probably all season. Always your insights, awesome. Any parting message to everybody?
No, I just hope we have a football season. It is by no means certain.
Yeah, I think we got to stay fresh, being ready for a football season regardless. And yeah. Anyway, all right. Stay safe, all. Again, thanks, George. We are not meeting on Tuesday night. We're going to skip Tuesday and go to Thursday of this week. Chuck Hickey's going to talk us through some back judge mechanics, and should be some good stuff. So look forward to you all if you join us then. Take care.